the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. Time to start my 2017 NFL Draft recaps for each and every team. And today we're talking about my favorite team, the Tennessee Titans, and overall a pretty good draft for the Tennessee Titans. I thought they did a pretty good job. Let's start with round one. Pick number 5 as they select wide receiver Corey Davis. And I might have preferred that they took Jamal Adams or Marshawn Lattimore, but outside of that, there's nothing else that they should have done. Corey Davis will be a great pick for this team. Ultimately, he'll be like an 1,100 plus yard wide receiver. And when you look at kind of wide receiver, he could be like a Brandon Marshall type, a Demaryius Thomas type, a Jordy Nelson type, productive wide receivers. But would you prefer to have a very, very good strong safety like an Eric Berry or an Earl Thomas, who's not strong safety but free safety? Would you prefer to have that level player over, a nice wide receiver like a Brandon Marshall, Demaryius Thomas, or Jordy Nelson? I fear when we look back on this pick, we may have some regret. Kind of like, but you look back at 2014, the Titans of Taylor won, and we're very happy with that. He's been a very good left tackle. Overall, he can be a little bit of a clown, getting ejected from time to time. But overall, we like that. Now, could we have preferred to pick up 2 potential Hall of Famers? I mean, these 2 are headed for the Hall of Fame in Odell Beckham and Aaron Donald. I kind of look back and regret that a little bit, just a little bit. So overall, I like the pick, and if you don't look back, you won't even regret it at all. But because I love to look back, I'll regret it a little bit. We move on to their second first-round pick, cornerback Adoree Jackson. We're going to talk about this again today. So I sat down and I watched 10 games of Adoree Jackson this weekend, and I wanted to love this pick. I hated it when we first took him Thursday night in the draft. Friday night, I still pretty much hated it, but I was getting better on it. Now, I'm kind of where I was Friday nights, where I still don't like it, but I'm getting a little better on it, but I'm pretty solid now. Problems with Adoree Jackson, then we'll get to his strengths. Okay, so with Adoree Jackson, this is what you have. You have a wide receiver that's very, very athletic. I mean, this guy is ridiculously athletic. I think he only ran a 4.42 40 at his pro day or at his 40 or at his combine. But, man, he has game speed. When you put him on the football field, he's definitely the fastest guy on the football field at almost any given time, except for when John Ross was also on the football field. So I love that. I love his potential. I love his ball skills. This is a guy that knows how to track the football, bait quarterbacks into some throws, and intercept footballs. I love that, okay? But the negatives with this guy, technique. I mean, his technique, his backtrack, his footwork when matched up against wide receivers, man, it needs serious work. He absolutely got janky in his hips. And I'm going to do a film breakdown on Adoree Jackson and Corey Davis in a little bit, probably like a week from now. When he was going head-to-head with John Ross and he absolutely fell down, he didn't slip. His hips just got so janky and wonky that he ended just falling down like a clown. John Ross sped right past him, picked up, what was it, like a 70-yard touchdown or a 60-yard touchdown, ridiculously easy touchdown. If I see that against Will Fuller, I'm going to be pissed. And speaking of Will Fuller absolutely killed Adoree Jackson 2 years ago in college. As Will Fuller hit this guy with a move about 20 yards out, boom! And then Adoree Jackson hips, couldn't flip. Will Fuller gets like a 70-plus yard touchdown. Adoree Jackson is a guy that people keep telling me, oh, he's going to do a great job covering fast wide receivers. No, he won't. That's exactly not what he's going to do. Where he actually finds success is against guys that aren't that tall, like maybe like 6-foot wide receivers that aren't that fast. He did a very good job in terms of recovery speed, catching up to those guys, preventing those passes from being caught, and then baiting quarterbacks into throws, coming down with great interceptions. If you think this is a cornerback that's going to do a great job covering these fast wide receivers, you are wrong. As I tracked, John Ross had 5 catches for over 120 yards when Adoree Jackson was covering him. That is bad. When I tracked that Will Fuller had over 100 yards when Adoree Jackson was covering him. That is bad. He's not going to cover T.Y. Hilton, Will Fuller, and other guys well. Because whenever these other guys have these quick moves, his hips, he does not put his feet and his hips in position to make up for those moves, to account for those moves. and to be able to still cover these wide receivers and not give up ridiculous separation. Okay, so that's the problems with Adoree Jackson. He's not a very good cover corner, and there are plenty other cornerbacks the Titans could have selected that would prove to be better cover corners, like a Quincy Wilson, like a Tre'Davious White, like a Chidobe Awuzie, and like a... Did I already say Tre'Davious White? If I didn't, Tre'Davious White. I mean, there are other cornerbacks available to me, even Teez Tabor to me. Even though Teez Tabor is slow, he's a better cover corner than Adoree Jackson. Now, the hope and the belief is that the Tennessee Titans will mold Adoree Jackson into a better cornerback. It's possible, but they could have gotten refined, ready-to-go cornerbacks who are prepared to cover NFL wide receivers like Will Fuller, like T.Y. Hilton, like those guys that are struggling and having problems with on Sundays. I don't think Adoree Jackson is going to be a very good cover corner. I think he's going to have serious issues in coverage for years to come if he does not improve upon his technique, and you can believe, go ahead and believe, that he's going to improve upon his technique, because it's very possible. But when I'm asked, and I'm always asked, to evaluate the draft picks, it's not a very good draft pick because there are other guys that are likelier to be better cover corners. Now, he will be a great special teams player. He's going to have punt returns for touchdowns, kick returns for touchdowns, and perhaps you could argue that the value of those touchdowns and those special teams play will outweigh and make up for his liabilities in coverage. But man, I still struggle with this pick. I sat down and I watched 9 tapes on this guy, 10 tapes on this guy, and I'm gonna make a film breakdown on Adoree Jackson in the upcoming days. I did not love the pick, and I still don't love the pick. It's not a great pick. It's just not. So we move on to the 3rd round. Titans select wide receiver Taywan Taylor, and I like this pick because the Titans are going to spread out their wide receivers a little bit more this year. Now you have Taywan Taylor, Corey Davis, Rashard Matthews, and Tajay Sharp. This wide receiver position has gone from a weakness to maybe being a strength for this football team. Maybe not rookie year, because Taywan Taylor will be lucky if he outproduces what Kendall Wright did last year, just because he's a rookie. But eventually, 2018, 19, 20, you're going to see, man, this wide receiver core really come into its own and be a nice strength for this football team. And again, I always talk about it, man. Marcus Mariota has the ability to throw for over 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns to me. Let's get some wide receivers around this guy and throw the football a little bit more and have a nice run game too, man. Let's have balance. I'm fine with balance. So this pick allows us to do that. I like Taywan Taylor. He's a guy that's a slot receiver, or he's going to be a slot receiver. In college, he played outside, but in the NFL, he's going to make most of his money in the slot. He's going to do a very good job to me. He had a great game against Alabama, although most of his production came at the end of the game. I think he's going to be better than Kendall Wright was for us in terms of that role, being a slot wide receiver. I think he's going to remain committed to that role and then excel in that role. So I like to pick it, give it a B+, only because I may have preferred wide receivers Chris Godwin and Carlos Henderson over him at this spot. But overall, I really like this pick for the Tennessee Titans. The 3rd round pick, number 100 overall, the Titans selected tight end Jonnu Smith out of Florida International. And again, there were some other players that I might have preferred at this position, like a Bucky Hodges, like a Jordan Leggett, like a George Kittle, like a Jake Butt. But I really like Jonnu Smith. It's just hard to find out a lot about this guy because, he went to Florida International, not a big school. It's very hard to find tape on this guy. I can only find 1 or 2 tapes on this guy, but I like what I saw at the combine. Very athletic, had about a 4.6, 8.40 time. His hands are decent. They could use work, and same goes for Taywan Taylor and Corey Davis, by the way. But overall, I really like this pick, and I'm encouraged by this pick, and I hope Delanie Walker can mold this guy. It was funny going to NFL.com and seeing the pro comparison that they had for Jonnu Smith. It was Delanie Walker. So hopefully we found another Delanie Walker, and we'll have 2 Delanie Walkers for a little bit. So I like the pick. I give it a B+. When you move on to the 5th round and day 3, 155th pick overall, Titans select inside linebacker Jayon Brown out of UCLA. This guy is a coverage linebacker, and this is what this team severely needs to meet. Wesley Woodyard is currently this team's coverage linebacker, and he's pretty good, but we need an heir apparent. Jayon Brown is that to me, or hopefully he will prove to be that to me. Now, it was a little bit of a reach from what I see. Most people had him in like the 6th round, but overall, I like the pick. I give it a B+. the 6th round pick, 217th overall. Offensive guard Corey Levin out of Chattanooga. Now, everyone loves this guy because he went to UTC. But I watched his film versus Alabama, and I did not love it. He struggled to me. And I know it's Alabama, and they're very good. But the players you faced on the Alabama defensive line, there's a lot of players in the NFL that have that kind of talent, okay? So that's who he's going to have to go up against. Now, he's a 6th round pick, okay? So he may never play. So that does concern me a little bit, but you know, they solidified, you know, some depth at guard, which I wouldn't have gone this route. I would have preferred they get a defensive lineman in this draft. I mean, they did not pick up one defensive lineman in this draft. I don't understand that. I know we still have Angelo Blackson and Austin Johnson, but they haven't done anything, really. I know Angelo Blackson people like for some reason. I don't know why. And then Austin Johnson, I liked him last year as a draft pick, but he didn't do anything. So, to me, we needed some defensive line depth, and I'm shocked we did not take a defensive lineman. I would have preferred to take a defensive lineman, so I can only give this pick a B. I had some defensive linemen like Steve Tuikolevatu and Elijah Qualls were available at this spot. Maybe Qualls may have been gone, actually, but Steve Tuikolevatu was available, and I would have preferred to pick up a defensive tackle in him. We move on to the 7th round as the Titans traded back and ended up having 3 7th-round picks. They first took outside linebacker Josh Carraway out of TCU, and I love this pick. Guy that had a lot of sack production at TCU. Now, the funny thing is, the rap on this guy is that he's not very physical, which doesn't make any sense to me. I turned on the film, and he's not very strong, but I'm not sure if it's because he's not being physical or he's just not strong enough. But I mean, if you have 9 sacks in the Big 12, you have to be somewhat physical. So I'm encouraged by this guy. I think this guy could end up producing for us. I like his potential as a 7th-round pick. I give this pick a damn A. We move on to the next 7th-round pick. Offensive tackle Brad Seaton out of Villanova. And I like this pick as well, man. Picking up an offensive tackle. You know, this guy is probably going to be a right tackle in the NFL. Very lengthy guy. You know, some questions about his strength, though, and his hands. But, you know, we solidified offensive tackle depth, which I preferred over solidifying our offensive guard depth. Because offensive tackle, to me, you know, depth-wise, it's not very good. Dennis Kelly, who we traded for last year, I don't think he's very good. And then I'm not even sure who would ever step up to be our right tackle if we needed one. So I like the pick, man. I give this pick actually an A-. And then we have our next 7th-round pick, 241st overall. And our last pick, running back Khalfani Muhammad out of California. And I turned on this guy's highlights, and they're just highlights. But, man, this guy's fast, man. I'm running a 4.3, 4.40, either at the combine or at his pro day. I'm not sure which one. And he has speed, and he has receiving skills. And if the Titans were going to take a running back in this draft, I would have wanted him to have speed and receiving skills. So I give this pick an A-. Perhaps you could do something for this football team, as currently our number 3 running back is, I think, Antonio Andrews, and we all know that he stinks. If it's not him, I don't know who it is. Whoever it is, stinks. Okay, so there you go. When you calculate the GPA for this draft using my my GPA system that I constructed in my diabolical lab, it makes out to a 3.23 GPA, a B+, which is pretty good. And overall, I think this is a pretty good draft class for the Tennessee Titans. I don't think that they knocked it out of the park. I think they could have done better. And a lot of these picks ended up being day 3 picks. I mean, half of them ended up being day 3 picks. And later in day 3, rounds 5, 6, and then 3 picks in round 7. So it's not likely any of them do anything. So unfortunately, I'm not sure how much production we're going to end up getting out of this draft class. But I like the fact that, to me, we solidified our wide receiver position for the upcoming 2 years. And we have a tight end, heir apparent. And I think 1 or 2 of these day 3 picks will probably pan out. If I had to predict right now, I think Khalfani Muhammad will be a nice 3rd-string running back. Jayon Brown would make some nice plays for us. And Josh Carraway could make the roster and maybe be what Deontrez Mount should have been a couple years ago. So I like that. I mean, Brad Seaton could be a nice backup tackle for us. So I like day 3 picks. But Adoree Jackson, he's going to me, really define this draft class. I mean, if he can be great, and I'm wrong, and he's great, and still Corey Davis is great, this will be a great draft class. We'll have our, our number 1 or number 2 corner in Adoree Jackson, and our number 1 wide receiver in Corey Davis, and it'll be great, and everyone will be great, and it'll be great. But because I see so many issues with Adoree Jackson, again, I'm going to come out with a film breakdown of Adoree Jackson. There were just so many stats that I looked up on Adoree Jackson that really concerned me. Out of the top 10 NFL draft cornerbacks, he had the worst touchdown percentage given up. He had one of the actually lowest interception percentages, because Adoree Jackson was actually targeted 204 times in college. I think this was without his collegiate career, which is a lot. Why are quarterbacks throwing his way? Okay, and he still gave up one of the highest receiving percentages. He gave up 80%. 80% completion percentage over the middle. Okay, so when people talk about him being potentially a slot corner, no, he's awful in terms of a slot corner, giving up 80% of receptions over the middle. There are key statistics that concern the hell out of me with Adoree Jackson. I love his ability, though, to track down players as they ran past him. Okay, he did a great job tracking down an Alabama running back who was about to score a touchdown and some other players as well. But, man, there are issues in coverage with this guy. One of the highest touchdown percentages, one of the median or lower interception percentages, one of the highest receiving percentages given up, and the highest out of 10 NFL draft cornerbacks, the highest passer rating allowed with an 88 passer rating, Adoree Jackson. There are issues with Adoree Jackson. Man, they are clear as day. Again, I'm going to come out with a film breakdown on Adoree Jackson because people keep telling me, oh, he won the whatever award, the whatever Jim Thorpe award for the best defensive back. Who the hell cares? The last four Jim Thorpe Award winners have done nothing in the NFL. Desmond King was a 5th-round pick. Gerald Holloman, who did not make the league, and someone that I do not even remember. Now, some guys that won the award have done well, like Eric Berry or Patrick Peterson and some others, but some other guys have done nothing. So that indicates to me that we cannot even use that as an indicator for anything. You might as well just use the 18th pick and say, these 18 picks did something, like last year, whoever was the 18th pick, and then this 2015 18th pick didn't do anything, and then trying to make a conclusion off that data. There's no conclusion to be made. There's no evidence to suggest that there's a correlation there. So I don't want to hear about the Jim Thorpe Award. I don't want to hear about his 5 interceptions. I don't want to hear about any of that. There are issues with Adoree Jackson that I hope he can fix, but right now I'm not sure he will ever fix them. And overall, this Tennessee Titans draft gets a B+ from me. So there you go. That is my thoughts on the Tennessee Titans 2017 NFL draft. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. I want to know. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, to subscribe. And until next time, this has been the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. And I'm out. Peace.